is a very powerful position. We want to elect you. The California Attorney General is also someone that has clout on the national scene. So not only for California, but in terms of the nation, we need Kamala to win this race. And so we are very happy to invite you up to talk with us today and for joining us here. So please.
No, there in the background. Thank you for opening this beautiful home, for inviting all of your friends and colleagues, and for giving me this opportunity. It's extremely generous. You have done it with the spirit of family and friendship, and it really means a lot. So thank you to our hosts, Susan and Alan. Beth, you have, yes? Words, and especially that ending. You said what I don't necessarily want to say all the time, but it needs to be said. And thank all of you. I arrived in Santa Barbara this morning. I've done, I think, 5 events today, and then I'm going to go back and do an event in LA tonight. But I just have to say, it's been just a wonderful day. It's been a wonderful day. And the activism and the spirit with which I'm finding the people who live in Santa Barbara bring to our state is just really almost overwhelming. It's been such a wonderful time, and I want to thank in particular Salud, I want to thank Pedro as 2 friends who are here as electeds who have been really incredible supporters, and I really appreciate the generosity which you have shared your supporters with me. And to all of you, thank you for being interested in the District Attorney of San Francisco, who is now the Democratic nominee for Attorney General for the state of California. So what I'd like to do is share a little bit about my background, because there are a lot of new friends here, and I think that my background does put in perspective the work that I've done and work I plan to do going forward. I'd like to talk a little bit about the work I've done in the DA's office, and then the Office of the Attorney General, because it is indeed a very important office. So by way of background, at the very, very beginning, my parents met when they were graduate students at the University of California, Berkeley in the 1960s. So you've already figured the rest out. But I'll tell you. And they met when they were active in the Civil Rights Movement. And so that meant for my sister Maya and me, we grew up pretty much surrounded full-time by a bunch of adults who spent full-time marching and shouting about this thing we call justice. And growing up in that environment, the heroes, undeniably, some of the heroes were the architects of the Civil Rights Movement. And they, of course, were the lawyers. So that was Thurgood Marshall and Charles Hamilton Houston and Constance Baker Motley, who were taking the great skill of this profession and translating the passion from the streets to the courtrooms of our country, and doing the important work of reminding all those folks who unfortunately needed to be reminded of that great promise we articulated in 1776, which we all know is that we are all and should be treated as equals. So I decided at a very young age I wanted to be a lawyer. I went on to Howard University, and then I came back home and attended Hastings College of the Law. And it was in law school that I made the decision about what I wanted to do with my career. And I was very excited about my decision, and my family and extended family gathered around. Okay, Kamala, what are you going to do with your fight for justice? I was very excited. And I said, well, I've decided I'm going to be a prosecutor. Because you know who my family is. That's why I get this reaction. Yes, for many of them it was a curious decision. And with some of them I had to defend the decision like one with a thesis. But what I said then is what I absolutely maintain today after a career as a prosecutor. Law enforcement has such a profound and direct impact on the most vulnerable among us, and has as its responsibility, as its job, to be a voice for the voiceless. And in the process of giving voice and safety, also give dignity. So I decided that's the work I wanted to do. And And I went straight out of law school to what was then considered to be one of the best DA's offices in the country, and that's the Alameda County DA's office, as Beth has told you. In large part, the reputation comes from the fact that years before, the DA there was Earl Warren. And I started my work as a prosecutor, and it was the work of walking into courtrooms and talking with juries about why justice demands and dictates that there will be serious and swift and severe consequence when one human being kills another human being, or when a woman is raped or a child is molested. It was the work of standing before those juries and talking about what we all agree, which is that in a civil society, there must be consequence when one human being harms another human being. And frankly, there are a lot of folks spending a lot of time in the state prison system because of the work I did in those courtrooms. I was then recruited after about 8 years in the Alameda County DA's office to join my office as the head of the career criminal unit. I was there for a couple of years. Didn't think the incumbent was doing such a great job. And the city attorney at the time, Louise Rennie, who was the first woman elected city attorney in San Francisco and a leader in public law, and a mentor of mine, recruited me to join her office and head the Children and Families Division, which I did. And so for 2 years, I worked on policy issues that benefit children and families in San Francisco. And then I was encouraged to run and challenge the incumbent DA. And so for all of you political women and men who love women who are political, it meant taking on a 2-term incumbent who comes from an old political family in San Francisco. His nickname is KO because he was known as being a boxer who knocked people out. But nonetheless, I thought we could do the job better, and so I decided to run. And I remember those first days I was sitting in a little campaign office and got the polling results, and we started out at a very healthy 6 points in the polls. So for all of you candidates in the room or want to be candidates, do not be deterred. But what we did is what I remembered my parents doing not long before. What we did with the politics of that race, as we are with this race, is we put together a coalition. We put together a coalition of people who seemingly have nothing in common, but have everything in common. When we talk about what we all want in knowing we can raise our children in a community where they are safe. What we all want in terms of believing that the elders among us will be treated with dignity and free from predatory practices. What we all want in terms of believing that if a youth enters the juvenile justice system, we will figure out a way to cycle them out before they become the career criminal. So that's the conversation we had. My slogan is smart on crime. Let's do that. Let's stop asking about criminal justice policy, this simplistic thing which suggests that you're either soft on crime or you're tough on crime. Instead, let's ask, are we smart on crime? Needless to say, I won the race. I was elected and started my job in January of 2004. And then the work started. And the work included addressing a lot of what some would consider the mundane, but the necessary work that must happen in order to run what is essentially a public law office. And so that meant addressing the fact that in 2004 in San Francisco, 2/3 of my lawyers did not have email. It meant putting in place a filing system. It meant putting in place recruitment and training programs and supporting the work that that office needs to do, that is professional work. And as Beth has shared with you, I'm proud that because of a lot of that early focus, we have increased the conviction rates to the highest they've been in San Francisco in over 15 years. We have sent twice as many serious and violent felons to state prison. We have created a gun policy that's increased the conviction rate from 43% to over 90%. But the work didn't stop there. Because if we are truly going to be smart on crime, we must recognize that yes, let's react swiftly after a crime has occurred. But to truly achieve public safety, should we not also concern ourselves with preventing a crime before it occurs? So that's why I created a re-entry unit in my office, which is one of the only re-entry units of a DA's office in the country. And I chose to create an initiative we call Back on Track. And I chose to focus on the 18 through 24-year-old, first-time, low-level, non-violent drug sales offender. Why that population? Well, one, there are a lot of them. Two, when I was at Howard University, we were all 18 through 24, and we were called college kids. But when you turn 18 and you're in the system, you're considered an adult, period. Without any regard to the fact that that is the very phase of life in which we have invested billions of dollars in this world, in those places called colleges and universities. Knowing that is the prime phase of life, during which we mold and shape and direct a human being to become a productive adult. So that's why I chose to focus on that group. And simply put, what we did is I called up my friends at the Chamber of Commerce, called up my friends at the building trades unions, called up some of the faith-based leaders and community nonprofit leaders, and we focused on this population, and we dealt with the fact that a lot of them needed to get a GED and be enrolled in City College. Almost none of them have employable skills, so we enrolled them in the apprenticeship programs offered by the carpenters and the plumbers. We addressed the fact that a lot of them are parents who have a natural desire to parent their children, but not necessarily the skills. So we brought on board community-based folks to work on that piece. And I'm proud to tell you that as of today, this initiative Back on Track over the last 5 years has reduced the recidivism or reoffense rate for this population from 54% to less than 10%. Wow.